Here are the 9 contestants preparing for tonight's show. At stake is a prize fund of up to £50,000, but only...
Others who are bending down is called leap what?
Frog.
Correct, Deborah. In TV, what is the name of the girlfriend of the cartoon character Popeye?
Olive.
I'll accept. Olive oil. Eddie, in horse racing, immediately prior to the start of a race, the runners are said to be under starters what?
Orders.
Correct. Claire Louise, which magazine, established to benefit homeless people, celebrated its 10th birthday in September 2001?
The Big Issue.
Correct. Vicky, in science, what F precedes the word fuel to describe substances such as coal, oil and natural gas?
Pass.
Fossil. Nick, in the animal kingdom, what E is the land mammal with the longest gestation period?
Elephant.
Correct. Steve, in food, a frankfurter sausage inside a long bread roll is more commonly known as what?
A hot dog.
Correct. Tom, in the animal kingdom, what type of creature is an octopus? A mollusk or a crustacean?
A mollusk.
Correct. Ravi, the East London district, bounded on 3 sides by a horseshoe bend in the River Thames, is known as the Isle of what?
Dogs.
Correct. Alison, in human anatomy, which of the 5 digits of the hand contains only 2 bones?
The thumb.
Correct. Deborah.
Bank.
Where would you find a gazebo, a garden or an armoury?
Garden.
Correct. Eddie, in pop music, the 2001 UK #1 single, Rollin', was a hit for the band Limp what?
Biscuit.
Correct. Claire Louise, the name of which reptile is a colloquial term for a line of schoolchildren walking in double file?
Snake.
Crocodile. Vicky, for which children's TV character and chart topper does actor Neil Morrissey provide the voice?
Oh, Bob the Builder.
Correct. Nick, in geography, Athens is the capital city of which European country?
Greece.
Correct. Steve, in human biology, if a woman has quadruplets, to how many babies has she given birth?
4.
Correct. Tom, in music, to which family of instruments does the piccolo belong, string or woodwind?
Woodwind.
Correct. Ravi, in
Bank.
British politics, what C is the name for the body of selected ministers responsible for formulating government policy?
Cabinet.
Correct. Alison, in fashion, in which decade was Lycra introduced in the US?
70s.
50s. Deborah, in UK geography, which seaside resort lies between Selsey Bill and Beachy Head, Brighton or Clacton?
Brighton.
Correct. Eddie, in food and drink, what M is a word to describe wine flavoured with sugar and spices and served hot, especially at Christmas?
Mould.
Correct. Claire Louise,
Bank.
in ancient Greek mythology, the gift famously presented to the Trojans was a wooden what?
Horse.
Correct. Vicky, in nature, what bee is an animal that builds both dams and lodges?
Beaver.
Correct. Nick, in literature, which author wrote the novel Polo in 1992?
Julie Hall.
Time is up. The correct answer was Jilly Cooper. Well, in that first round, you managed to bank just £2,750 of a possible £5,000. Whose wheel is turning but the hamster is dead? Who's head and shoulders below the rest?
I feel as though I've blown my chance. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and it's just all over.
Round 2, team. So far, you have £2,750 in the kitty. There are 8 of you left. We are now taking 10 seconds from your time. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Deborah. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Deborah, in football, Munich 1860 is a team in the domestic league of which European country?
Germany.
Correct. Eddie, what is the name of the official map-making body of the UK?
Cartography.
No, the Ordnance Survey. Claire Louise, in maths, what is the square root of 49?
16.
7. Nick, in pop music, what was the title of the 1994 UK Top 20 single by US male vocalist Beck? Winner or loser?
Loser.
Correct. Steve, Brixton, Melville and Cottesloe are suburbs of which South African city?
Johannesburg.
Correct. Tom, which country is the world's leading producer of bourbon whiskey?
Scotland.
No, the United States. Ravi, in pop music, what is the first name of the only male member of the band The Cause?
Jim.
Correct. Alison, in a punishment dating from the 12th century, criminals were smeared in tar and then covered with what?
Feathers.
Correct. Deborah.
Bank.
From which branch of the Royal Navy did Prince Edward resign in January 1987?
Brigadiers.
No, the Royal Marines. Eddie, in maths, how many centimetres are there in 5 metres?
500.
Correct. Claire Louise, in British TV, which comedian played the title role in the comedy series The New Statesman?
Rick Mail.
Correct. Nick.
Blank.
In the animal kingdom, what is the name given to the offspring of a pen and a cob?
Pass.
Signet. Steve. Which beverage has varieties including iced and herbal?
Tea.
Correct. Tom. In the Rastafarian faith, which of the following is a forbidden food? Plantain or pork?
Pork.
Correct. Ravi. In which Olympic sport do competitors score points by using blunt swords to make contact with their opponents?
Fencing.
Correct. Alison. In literature, the title of one of the early plays of Shakespeare is the comedy of what?
Errors.
Correct. Deborah.
Bank.
In football, which country was the winner of the World Cup in 1930, the year it was first held? Uruguay or Brazil?
Brazil.
Uruguay. Eddie, in film, which actor played the character Sky Masterson in the 1955 musical Guys and Dolls?
Ben Crosby.
Marlon Brando. Claire Louise, in which art gallery is the statue of the Venus de Milo?
The Louvre.
Correct. Nick. Cole Porter wrote the 1948 musical Kiss Me What?
Kate.
Correct. Steve. In UK geography, what H is a group of islands extending in an arc off the Atlantic coast of Scotland?
The Hebrides.
Correct. Tom.
Bank.
In food, which fish is normally smoked to make a kipper?
Salmon.
Herring. Ravi. In literature, who wrote the novel Tess of the D'Urbervilles?
Thomas Hardy.
Correct. Alison.
Bank.
The Colonel Bogey March became famous due to which classic 1950s? Time is up. I cannot complete the question. You did not do as well in that round by any means, team. You only banked £2,100. Who must now be cut adrift? Who's the wasp in your lemonade?
I was the most intelligent and best-looking person out there. They just felt threatened by me. I've actually got a feeling Claire Louise will go next, purely because, well, she got as many questions wrong in that round as I did, and her hair reminds me of Dougal from the Magic Roundabout, so I think it might distract people.
Round 3, team, you have in your kitty £4,850. If you'd stayed awake, you'd have 10,000. You're down to 7 players. We're taking another 10 seconds off your time. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Steve. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Steve, in the media, as what is the celebrity Amber Valletta often in the public eye? Fashion model or newsreader?
Fashion model.
Correct. Ravi, in biology, how many Y sex chromosomes does a normal woman have?
0.
Correct. Alison. Which 2001 BBC TV documentary series presented by David Attenborough featured life in the oceans of the world?
The Blue Planet.
Correct. Deborah. In pop music, who had a 1997 UK hit album titled White on Blonde? Bob Dylan or Texas?
Texas.
Correct. Eddie. In medicine, what eye describes something that is administered into a vein?
Intravenous.
Correct. Claire Louise. In
Bank.
tennis, what would the score be if a French umpire called égalité?
Advantage.
No, deuce. Nick, in which century was the first motor car race?
The 19th.
Correct. Steve. Which British comedian co-wrote and starred in the 2001 film The Parole Officer?
Steve Coogan.
Correct. Ravi, in nature, which large yellow flower has the Latin name Helianthus?
Sunflower.
Correct. Alison.
Bank.
What's the name of the rating used to measure the insulating power of duvets?
Tog.
Correct. Deborah. What M is the decorative art of knotting cord and thread?
Marquetry.
No, macrame. Eddie. The word parliament comes ultimately from the French verb parler, which in English means to what?
Speak.
Correct. Claire Louise. In nature, which tree takes its name from the belief that one of the apostles hanged himself from its branches?
Oak.
Judas. Nick, in tennis, what kind of stance does Tin Henman have, right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
Correct. Steve. In TV, in which decade was the American sitcom The Monkees first broadcast in the UK?
The 1960s.
Correct. Ravi. In music, in which city was Elgar's first symphony premiered, Manchester or Leeds?
Manchester.
Correct. Alison.
Bank.
What F is the name given to the practice of training and hunting with peregrines, goshawks and similar birds?
Falconry.
Correct, Deborah.
Bank.
In the United States, what is the standard 3-digit emergency telephone number?
911.
Correct, Eddie. In pop music, the Stereophonics had a UK hit single in 2001 with the song Mr. Who.
Nobody.
Writer, Claire Louise. In the Bible, what was Daniel, a prophet or a king?
A prophet.
Correct, Nick.
Bank.
According to the popular expression, a dominant or scheming person is one who twists someone else round which body part?
Elbow.
Little finger. Steve, which profession? Time is up, and you managed £2,700. But who, sadly, is not the brightest light in the harbour?
To be voted off, actually, because he's getting too many smart aleck remarks in and he's been too smarmy about the rest of the team.
Round 4, you've banked £7,550 so far out of potential prize money of £15,000. There are 6 of you left. We are taking another 10 seconds off your time. You now have only 2.5 minutes. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Alison. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Alison, in history, the American statesman famous for testing the nature of electricity with a kite in a thunderstorm was Benjamin who?
Franklin.
Correct, Deborah. In the 1990s films Dr. Dolittle and the Nutty Professor, which US actor played the title roles?
Eddie Murphy.
Correct, Eddie. In geography, which country was formerly called Ceylon?
Sri Lanka.
Correct, Nick. In cookery, what is arrowroot, a flavouring or a thickening agent?
A flavouring.
A thickening agent. Steve. In science, what is the chemical symbol for gold?
AU.
Correct. Ravi. Which singer was the subject of the controversial biography His Way, written by Kitty Kelly?
Boy George.
Frank Sinatra. Alison. In food, which sauce is traditionally served with roast lamb?
Mint sauce.
Correct, Deborah.
Bank.
In Hinduism, what is the Ramayana, a festival or a poem?
Festival.
No, it's a poem. Eddie. In American politics, which statesman was Secretary of State during the second term of President Nixon?
Clinton.
No, Henry Kissinger. Nick. The 1974 World Championship boxing match between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman was known as the Rumble in the what?
Jungle.
Correct, Steve. In geography, what S is a Spanish city described by Byron as famous for oranges and women?
Seville.
Correct. Ravi. In literature, which Daniel Defoe novel was based on a story of a sailor called Alexander Selkirk?
Robinson Crusoe.
Correct, Alison. In film, who directed Blue Velvet, Eraserhead and The Elephant Man?
David Lynch.
Correct. Deborah.
Bank.
In music, in which country was the rock band AC/DC formed?
America.
Australia. Eddie. Which children's TV show about a cloth cat featured the marvellous mechanical mouse organ?
Bagpuss.
Correct, Nick. In travel, on which set of imaginary lines does the international date line lie, latitude or longitude?
Longitude.
Correct, Steve.
Bank.
In astrology, if you were born on the 5th of August, what star sign would you be?
Leo.
Correct. Ravi. In maths, what is the next number in the sequence 9, 18, 27, 36?
45.
Correct, Alison. In music, Mimi and Rodolfo are the lovers in which Puccini opera, La Bohème or Madame Butterfly?
Madame Butterfly.
La Bohème. Deborah. In cricket, for which southern county did England batsman Graham Thorpe make his debut in 1988?
Middlesex.
Surrey. Eddie. In modern history, what B is an independent state within the British Commonwealth which shares a border with... Time is up. I cannot complete the question. And that was a dreadful, shameful, pathetic £850 you managed in that round. Who is now the millstone round your neck? Who is not bringing home the bacon?
Like being wrapped around your elbow, just stupid, and he should have gone long time.
Round 5, team. Your total so far is £8,400. If you'd hit your targets, it would be £20,000. There are 5 of you left, another 10 seconds coming off the time. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Steve. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Steve, in human biology, what name is given to an unborn child at the stage where the main features of the adult form are fully developed?
Fetus.
Correct. Ravi, in classical ballet, how many basic positions of the feet are there?
4.
5. Alison, what S is a word derived from the Gaelic for Saxon and is now used in Scotland as a general term for an English person?
Don't know.
Sassenach. Eddie, in the 1920s, Hans Wilsdorf designed the first wristwatch to be resistant to what?
Water.
Correct. Nick, in British politics, which party manifesto in the 1983 general election was dubbed by Gerald Kaufman the longest suicide note in history?
Labour.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
which common garden tree is also known as golden rain?
Pass.
Laburnum. Ravi, in pop music, which female singer had a 2001 UK hit single with Ain't It Funny?
Britney Spears.
Jennifer Lopez. Alison, in biology, in which part of the human body is the occipital artery?
In the eye.
No, it's in the head. Eddie, in sport, the originator of the modern rules of boxing was the Marquis of where?
Queensbury.
Correct. Nick, which month of the year derives its name from the 9th month in the most ancient Roman calendar?
November.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in the 1983 film Champions, which actor played jockey Bob Champion?
Pass.
John Hurt. Ravi, in history, Queen Victoria formed a well-known affection for her Scottish manservant John who?
Brown.
Correct. Alison, in music, what was the first name of the English composer Purcell?
Edward.
Henry. Eddie, in weights and measures, how many pounds are there in 32 ounces?
2.
Correct. Nick, in golf, which team has contested the Ryder Cup against the United States since 1979?
Europe.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in theatre, which former Dallas actress took over the part of Mrs. Robinson in the West End play The Graduate in October 2001?
Linda Gray.
Correct. Ravi, in biology, apiphobia is a fear of which insects?
Bees.
Correct. Alison, in
Bank.
Greek mythology, which sex was Eros? Time is up, and you banked just £1,000. Who has displayed far too much absence of mind? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to...
Questions he couldn't answer.
Detective Constable Alison, what's your excuse?
I had a
for
disaster.
trying to get rid... No, I know you had a disaster. The only good news is that hardly anyone noticed their powers of observation are as lousy as yours, Alison. Why Ravi?
He stuck out more in my mind than anyone. Steve also had a bad round, but he did bank us quite a bit of money in that round.
And did you think Ravi was the weakest player, Alison?
Yes, I did. You can glare at me all you like, Anne.
I don't know whether your powers of observation are even more frighteningly terrible than I first imagined, or whether I've got a detective constable lying to me. Is that a porky pie?
No, Anne.
Well, when the vote's tied, the strongest link has to cast the deciding vote. Nick was the strongest link. First of all, you voted for Ravi.
I did.
Is that because he's better looking than you?
No, I voted Ravi because he didn't have a good round at all.
You now have a choice between Ravi or Steve.
I think Steve has been better than anybody here tonight. I think he's been the strongest link throughout the whole of the programme, and therefore Ravi's got to go, I'm afraid.
There is a case for holding on to Steve, since he was the only one who noticed that Detective Constable Alison didn't answer one question correctly. So statistically, Alison was the worst player, but we have to go with your decision. So Ravi, you are the weakest link. Bye.
2 questions wrong in that round. So did a lot of people. Steve should have gone, because although he got 2 wrong, he didn't even make an attempt at an answer. He just passed. I would like to see Nick voted off next. I think he and I were probably of the same standard. And if I've gone, I think he should go too.
Round 6, team. You have £9,400 out of the £25,000 you could have won by now. There are 4 of you left. We are cutting another 10 seconds from your time. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Nick. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Nick, in the classic 1963 film, which actress played Cleopatra?
Liz Taylor.
Correct. Steve, in science, which astronomer was first to observe the moons of Jupiter?
Galileo.
Correct. Alison, what is the name for the flexible belt of steel plates which run round the wheels of vehicles such as tanks?
Don't know.
Tracks. Eddie, in which major religion is the Feast of the Tabernacles an autumn festival?
Jewish.
Correct. Nick, in music, the song You'll Never Walk Alone comes from which musical?
Oklahoma.
Carousel. Steve, in the long-running children's TV show, what kind of animal were the characters Pinky and Perky?
Pigs.
Correct. Alison.
Bank.
According to the phrase, somebody shifty is said to play fast and what?
Furious.
Loose. Eddie, in the 1941 film They Died with Their Boots On, which famous character from American history was played by Errol Flynn?
Custer.
Correct.
Bank.
Nick, in history, the Protestant John Knox returned from exile in 1559 to found which British church?
The Methodists.
No, Church of Scotland. Steve, in pop music, what were the first names of the brother and sister who formed the group The Carpenters?
Karen and Richard.
Correct. Alison, in
Bank.
language, Cosa Nostra, Italian for our thing, is a term used for which crime organisation?
Don't know.
The Mafia.
All right.
Eddie, according to the title of John Gray's book, men are from Mars and women are from where?
Venus.
Correct. Nick, in sport, in which city were the US Open Tennis Championships held in 2001?
Los Angeles.
New York. Steve, according to the nursery rhyme, who sings for his supper?
Little Tommy Tucker.
Correct. Alison,
Bank.
what name is given to the common safety appliance usually handheld containing a substance such as water or dry powder?
Torch.
No, a fire extinguisher. Eddie, in politics, in which year... Time's up. And unsurprisingly, you managed to bank a disastrous £400. Can I urge you to ditch the ditherer, drop the dunce, eject the idiot? In total.
75.
Correct, Eddie. The ruler of which country was forced to renounce his divinity after the Second World War, although he kept the title of emperor?
Japan.
Correct,
Bank.
Nick. In which British city are Putney Bridge and Hammersmith Bridge?
London.
Correct, Steve. Which actor co-starred with Samuel L. Jackson in the 2000 film Unbreakable?
Mel Gibson.
Bruce Willis. Eddie, in literature, who wrote the autobiography The Naked Civil Servant?
John Hurt.
Quentin Crisp. Nick, in history, who led the British Union of Fascists from 1932 to 1940?
Hitler.
Oswald Mosley. Steve, according to the proverb, life begins at what age?
40.
Correct. Eddie, Judy Garland and Barbara Streisand have both starred in versions of which film?
Wizard of Oz.
A Star is Born. Nick, El País and El Mundo are national newspapers published in which European capital city?
Madrid.
Correct. Steve, in the military, Aubange, near Marseille, is one of the headquarters of which French military force?
Foreign Legion.
Correct.
Bank.
Eddie, in which sport is Frank Warren a professional promoter?
Boxing.
Correct. Nick, in maths, if you saved £50 every week, how many weeks would it take you to save £1,000?
20.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in food, what name is given to the salad made from finely shredded cabbage and carrots dressed with cream or mayonnaise?
Pass.
Coleslaw. Eddie, in art, from which country did the sculptures the Elgin marbles originate?
Greece.
Correct. Nick, in UK geography, Withington and Chorlton-cum-Hardy are parts of which large city in the north of England?
Manchester.
Correct.
Bank.
Steve, which 20th century French author and philosopher declined the 1964 Nobel Prize for Literature?
Jean-Paul Sartre.
Correct.
Bank.
Eddie, in 1890... Time is up. You banked £1,100. Now, in round 8, you get the chance to treble what you bank, which means in the next round there's £15,000 to be won. The question is, who will cost you money? Who will help you raise the bank balance? Have the courage, but whatever you win in this round will be trebled and added to your total to make up your final prize money. So £15,000 is at stake. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Nick. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Nick, in biology, the sum total of all genes in a breeding population is known as the gene what?
Pool.
Correct! Steve, what relation is a man to the husband of his daughter?
Father-in-law.
Correct. Nick, the traditional board game of counters on a grid of 3 linked squares is 9 men's what?
Marbles.
Morris. Steve, in maths, what is 25% of 300?
75.
Correct. Nick, which of the armed forces traditionally holds reviews at Spithead?
Navy.
Correct.
Bank.
Steve, in 1926, Gertrude Ederle became the first woman to swim across which body of water?
The English Channel.
Correct. Nick, in literature, which 20th century author created the character Gandalf the Wizard?
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Correct. Steve, which department of the Board of Trade has provided weather forecasts to the national media since 1861?
The Met Office.
Correct. Nick, in UK geography, which town in Oxfordshire gives its name to a type of currant-filled cake?
Eccles.
Banbury. Steve, in politics, which former Labour leader is now the Vice President of the European Commission?
Neil Kinnock.
Correct.
Bang.
Nick, in science, the sun rises exactly in the east and sets exactly in the west on both the vernal and the autumnal what?
Equinox.
Correct.
Bank.
Steve, in modern literature, who wrote the book Bravo? Time's up. And between you in that round, you banked £700. We'll treble it and add it to the winnings from the previous rounds. That means prize money this evening of £13,000. But of course, only one of you can take that money away. So now you will play against each other head to head. I'll ask alternate questions, best of 5. Whoever answers the most correctly wins. It's as simple as that. If there's a tie after 5, we'll go for sudden death until we have a winner. So Nick and Steve for £13,000. Let's play the weakest link. Steve is the strongest link in the last round. You have the choice of who goes first.
I'll go first, please.
Steve, what is the only letter of the alphabet that does not appear in the name of any state of the United States?
Q.
That is the correct answer. Nick, in children's literature, what is the sequel to the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl?
Pass.
The correct answer is Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Steve, women's weightlifting was a full Olympic sport for the first time at the Summer Olympics of which year?
2000.
That is the correct answer. Nick, in maths, how many degrees is the angle between 2 lines that are perpendicular to each other?
90.
That is the correct answer. Steve, which type of twin-hulled boat takes its name from the Tamil for tide wood?
Catamaran.
That is the correct answer. Nick, in politics, in which English city are the constituencies to which Claire Short and Estelle Morris were elected as MPs in 2001?
Bristol.
No, the correct answer is Birmingham. Steve, if you answer this question correctly, you have won. So for £13,000, in which country is Faro International Airport?
Portugal.
That is the correct answer. That means, Steve, you are tonight's strongest link, and you go away with £13,000. Nick, you leave with nothing. Join us again for the weakest link. Goodbye.
And she's a scary lady. She's very small, but she's very feisty.
Having a cheque for £13,000 dangled in front of me like that, It feels pretty bad now. It would have made